Mario Sunshine is one of the hardest Nintendo games out there, but does that make it bad? To my dismay, when I started using the internet and YouTube, I saw a ton of criticism of what I consider to be my favorite game of all time. My 12-year-old self was a hardcore defender of Mario Sunshine in the early YouTube days, and now I'm here to tell you that I still think Mario Sunshine is a masterpiece. I'll do my best to acknowledge the flaws of the game, and I do understand that it can be a very frustrating experience. However, Mario Sunshine is a game that I fire up at least once a year, and I always have a great time playing it. Sure, you could make the argument that I only play this game yearly because I'm nostalgic for it after playing it as a kid so much. My argument against that, though, is that I played a lot of games as a kid, and I'm nostalgic for a lot of games. There are some that I never choose to replay because I know that they suck. Like we normally do on this channel, we are going to break down if Mario Sunshine is worth playing in modern times. I'm not going to delve into every single shine, but I will mention some important ones. We will also go over the game's controls, the story, and the audio and visual presentation. Lastly, we will discuss how modern players can best experience Mario Sunshine. This game is in a tricky spot when it comes to accessibility and preservation, like much of the GameCube's library. For now, let's get into the game, but after this brief aside. One thing I need to mention, and I guess apologize for, is the low quality of the capture footage. I'm recording off original hardware, and I have a capture card that only takes HDMI. It works great for things like the Switch, but I have to upscale something like the GameCube. The footage is rough since I have a very cheap upscaler at the moment. I'll just take a moment to explain that this channel is currently sitting at under 1,000 subscribers and generates no additional income for me currently. What I put into it is all from my full-time job, and I have a lot of other responsibilities in life. I cannot just blow cash on all the necessary equipment all at once. It's a gradual process. The capture card itself was not cheap. I need hard drives to store all my gameplay footage, and I also just upgraded my microphone. Hopefully you notice an increase in audio quality from the new microphone, which means it was worth it. In time, I will upgrade things like my upscaler. Just understand that it takes a while for small channels like mine to get fully established. And I have only done these videos since July of 2024, it hasn't been very long. The best thing that you can do to support me is to subscribe, and if you really want, you can help out the channel greatly by using the Super Thanks feature. There's no pressure of course in that, but just understand that anything you do contribute will go right into affording better equipment for better videos. For the case of Mario Sunshine, you might be wondering why I'm playing on a GameCube at all. I mean, this game is on the Switch. Well, that's because Nintendo decided to make their Switch port of this game extremely inaccessible, and it drives me insane. Mario 3D All-Stars contains Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy, three of the most popular Nintendo games of all time. It was only available for a very limited time digitally, and it got a low print run physically. Instead of giving modern players a great way to enjoy classic 3D Mario games, Nintendo turned it into a status symbol. I hate this decision with every fiber in my body. So given that I just had a rant about how expensive recording equipment is, I think it's clear and obvious that I did not shell out for a copy of 3D All-Stars for this video. I've also heard that those who did buy it were pretty disappointed in the ports themselves since they did not upgrade much at all. Maybe one day I'll get it just since Mario Sunshine is my favorite game of all time, but for now, bad! Bad Nintendo! How dare you do this! Notice how Mario 64 is also on the Nintendo Switch Online library? It's like they know nobody can actually play 3D All-Stars. Why would they limit the production of this game? Were they really worried people wouldn't want to play Mario Galaxy again? So no, despite this game getting a re-release, I'm not considering this a preservation effort. It's sabotage due to its poor accessibility. You're just better off with original hardware or emulation. So yes, the GameCube version is what you're seeing here with my crappy upscaler. With that, let's get into the game. Mario is on vacation, and when I played this game, I was usually also on summer vacation as well. What a great atmosphere for a summer break type of game. That's why I'm uploading this video in February. It's frigid cold almost everywhere in the United States right now, and hopefully seeing Mario rocking the short sleeves can put your mind out of the freezing temperatures for a minute. The crew has a rough landing at the Delfino airstrip, and there's this icky paint-like goop, to use the words of the Toads. Peach sees a weird figure that looks like Mario in the distance, but nobody listens to her. The rest of the area functions as a tutorial for the new Flood water backpack. Mario cleans up the area but gets thrown in jail since the islanders believe he is the culprit behind the graffiti. We get the court scene where Mario is not given a fair trial. I'll take a moment here to mention that yes, the voice acting in this game is atrocious, but it's charming.
As you are no doubt aware, someone has been senselessly defacing Fair Isle Delfino using some paint-like substance. The accused is charged with polluting our beautiful home, and yes, endangering our very way of life.
See, I've criticized something like Mega Man 8 for cheesy voice acting analogous to this era. The difference is that Mario Sunshine's bad voice acting is kind of funny, whereas Mega Man 8's is downright annoying. After all the cutscenes, Mario is essentially sentenced to do community service and clean up the town. Believe it or not, that's basically the entire story right there. There's a few more cutscenes, but it's ultimately a simple premise. As we start cleaning up, we see the real culprit, Shadow Mario. He goes after Peach and we have to stop him. Once you get 10 shines, you get the next cutscene where he fully captures her. Defeat Mecha Bowser and you see the true identity of Shadow Mario as Bowser Jr. The story of this game leaves me to make one major point. Peach is portrayed as a pathetic, helpless idiot in this game, and it makes the whole story kinda lame feeling. She just kinda lets herself get pushed around, and in the scene where Bowser Jr. reveals himself, she just kind of acts like an airhead.
Mario! I won't let you take Mama Peach away! Mama Peach? I'm your mama? So the graffiti, that was you? But why would you pretend to be Mario?
It just feels like her capture is almost staged, and they had to dumb her down so much to make it believable. I understand the concept of rescuing the princess being a staple of the Mario franchise, but Peach seems exceptionally defenseless in Mario Sunshine. Maybe the heat really got to her this time. I'm glad that Mario Sunshine was not my only exposure to this character. The Mario sports games were also a huge part of my childhood, and I got to see Peach portrayed this way as well. After you beat Mecha Bowser, Peach is taken up to Corona Mountain. That's right, after just 11 shines, the princess is taken away for good until you beat the game. There's your story. Like I said, I think it's a bit forced. However, the story is such a minor part of the game because you experience pretty much all of it after just 11 of 120 shines, so I can't knock it too much. Later on we will cover the ending, but there's still much more to talk about. Probably the biggest love it or hate it aspect of Mario Sunshine is the FLUDD jetpack. I love it. FLUDD is one of the many examples of Nintendo being different and creative in this era. This whole mechanic is really where I felt like this game is a misunderstood masterpiece. Mind you, the GameCube was the console that defined my childhood, so Nintendo being wacky like this was the standard I was presented with. As life went on, seeing Nintendo become so sterilized to the point of releasing New Super Mario Bros. U for the Wii U launch was a huge disappointment. The nostalgia for the GameCube became stronger and stronger with each ultra-safe first-party Nintendo game that came out during the Wii U era. Other than FLUDD being symbolic of a different time, I genuinely love the controls and movement in this game. They are really intricate, and there's so much you can do with FLUDD. I know some folks knock the game because it doesn't have the long jump from Mario 64. Yes, the long jump is fun, but you know what else is fun? Even today, I still get a little panic attack when I know I'm close to a platform and pushing the limits of the hover nozzle. Speaking of the nozzles, I do wish there was a little more practical use for the turbo and rocket nozzles. They are really fun to use, but ultimately you can get through the game with pretty limited use of each one. I remember being a kid and thinking about how badly I wanted the turbo nozzle to get this shine right here in Delfino Plaza. Then you realize that's one of very few shines that actually requires the turbo nozzle. The rocket nozzle is a little more useful, mainly because you need it to get into Pianta Village. However, the use overall still feels a little lacking. Just compare it to how much we actually use the default hover nozzle. This game also features Yoshi, who is used a little more than the turbo and rocket nozzles. You unlock him by clearing Mission 4 of Pina Park, the Wilted Sunflowers. Pina Park has a lot of important missions, it seems. Of course, Yoshi is required to access Sirena Beach at least the first time, and then there's a few other missions where he is needed. Again, I'm still wishing we used him a bit more. Also, when I was a kid, the first time I got him, I was so excited, and I jumped immediately in the water, thought I lost him forever, and I cried about it. I was so excited to finally get him, but again, the end result is that you don't really need to use him all that much. Despite some of the extras not being as prevalent, Mario Sunshine's movement still impresses me today, and I genuinely find that this game has some of the smoothest and best controls of any game that I've ever played. Just hopping around, sliding, and going wahoo is some of the most fun to be had in any 3D platformer. Typically, each mission can be categorized in several ways. For example, a boss fight, a secret mission, which are the floodless ones, a red coin mission, a piantissimo race, Shadow Mario, or something else more unique. I've mentioned some of the missions required for the story, like Mecha Bowser and the Wilted Sunflowers. I won't cover them all, but we can discuss a few more. In the beginning of the game, we fight this exact boss like 9 times. They mix it up and make you hit him 6 times instead of 3 later on. Woo! I actually have no idea what this boss is called. Let's look it up. Okay, it's called a polluted piranha. Yeah, I never knew that, but good to know, I guess. Thankfully, that doesn't go on for too long after you unlock all the worlds. I already mentioned Mecha Bowser, but I need to talk a little more about it. This mission has to be one of the most fun and creative boss fights ever. The music being unique to this fight is also great. And flying around on a roller coaster while trying to nail long shots on the robot is still some of the most fun to be had in this game. Other than Mecha Bowser, my other favorite boss fight is without a doubt the Manta Storm. I used to think this mission was actually impossible as a kid, since I thought there was no way it could possibly end. I mean, something can just keep splitting in half forever. It's pretty challenging, but sticking near the water is key. I would say it's not necessarily a mission that scared me as a kid, but it definitely made me feel like uneasy. The sounds the Manta makes are really disturbing, and it's kind of horrifying to just watch this all happen. Again, to make the point that Nintendo was different and creative in this era, when would you ever expect to see something like this fight in a Mario game? Some of the other boss fights like Petey Piranha or Gooper Blooper are a lot less fun and original. Why on earth did we fight Gooper Blooper 3 times? What is he doing here in Noki Bay? Does he have a vacation house here or something? This mission is probably the most uninspired one in the entire game. Then it's followed by one of the coolest bosses in the game though, the eel. So why did we have to go through another Gooper Blooper fight? Were they just out of ideas? So one of the biggest criticisms I used to hear about Mario Sunshine is that the difficulty was extremely high, mainly in the secret missions without FLUDD. Now, as a kid, I used to scream and throw controllers at this game, so I get it. However, I figured I just sucked at the game because I was a kid. It was pretty validating hearing older people say that Mario Sunshine is a damn hard game. I have a lot of practice with it at this point, so I don't find it as difficult as I used to. However, I still totally understand what people are saying. Bianco Hills is the de facto first world, and it has a mission where you have to do this. Personally, I find the second mission in Sirena Beach to be the hardest in the game, even more so than the infamous Chuckster level in Pianta Village. Even Miyamoto recently said that he regretted how hard this game was, at least according to the game's Wikipedia article. However, when you do get good at the secret missions and complete them, you feel on top of the world. This game is very satisfying to go through in this way due to its challenge. Honestly, it kinda gives me that NES level of satisfaction. Getting through a ball-busting stage in Castlevania or Ninja Gaiden creates a similar rush to finishing the brutally hard secret missions in Mario Sunshine. For this fact, I praise the game's difficulty, especially in an era long after the NES. Of course, you don't have to complete every single mission, only the first 7 of 8 in each world. The 7th mission is always a chase with Shadow Mario, and ultimately the goal of the game is to defeat him. The bare minimum for this game then is 51 shines. You get 1 at the airstrip, then 7 in each of the 7 worlds, and then 1 for beating Bowser. However, the maximum is 120 shines. Mind you, I play this game a lot, but I have only ever gotten 120 shines one time. That's mainly because of the tedious side objective of the game, the blue coins. They can be a fun little thing to collect here and there, but going for all of them is very challenging. There's 240 total. Later stages like Noki Bay are a downright masochistic endeavor for all the blue coins. There's 30 in each world, and 19 in the main part of Delfino Plaza. The Delfino Airstrip has 1, and the final area, Corona Mountain, has another 10. So that gets you to 30 for Delfino Plaza as well. But isn't that just great? You make it to the final area, you're all set up to face off against Bowser, but no, you have to painstakingly get 10 more stupid blue coins on this boat that everybody hates. Again, it's not something I choose to do all that often, and perhaps that keeps the game so fun for me. It might be a bit lame to admit that going for 100% in this game can be tedious while still calling it my favorite game of all time. But the experience is what I make of it. I mean, it's my game after all. If I only ever want to get 51 shines and love every moment of it once a year, then by all means, I think that's completely fine. If the game had some other mode where all you did was collect blue coins, I'd be sitting here telling you, Mario Sunshine is a great game, but I never play the blue coin mode. Ultimately, I usually get a few of the non-required shines and move on with my life. The one time I did 100% the game was when I was like 11 during a summer break. I had the time to do it. Other than the blue coins, there's so much to do in Mario Sunshine. Every secret mission can be replayed and it turns into a red coin mission where you get to use Flood. These are actually kind of cool since it's fascinating to use Flood in an area not particularly designed for him originally at least. The 100 coin missions return as well, and I know people were annoyed that you can't keep going after these like how you can in Mario 64. It's a minor complaint, but I do understand it. Again, though, none of these missions are technically required, and I did none of them for this playthrough. Lastly, there's other stuff like the races with Piantissimo, and a slew of additional red coin hunts. The game has a decent amount of variety, especially with the unique missions like the Watermelon Festival. But I do understand that there's a bit of copy and pasting going on here as well. I mean, there's a lot of red coin missions in Mario Sunshine. I still genuinely have a great time with at least the main missions of the game and screwing around with some side questing. Once we defeat Shadow Mario 7 times, we unlock the final area, Corona Mountain. I know a lot of people were disappointed with this area and mainly kind of how small it was and the emphasis on this stupid boat part at the end. It's not all that memorable outside of that. However, the Bowser fight in Sunshine is pretty cool. You have to rocket jump and slam down all these spokes of the Shine Sprite pool that Bowser is in. After that, we get a bit of a switcheroo as we think Flood has been permanently broken from all the action. However, he's fine, and by his command, we can finally let the vacation begin. We get shots of Mario and the crew enjoying themselves in all the places we saved from the havoc caused by Bowser and Bowser Jr. These shots are a nice time to reflect on all that we went through. Looking at all these images definitely reminds me that a huge part of what keeps me invested in this game every year is the environments that we go to, and we'll get to that in our next segment. Delfino Plaza is a place in gaming where I feel like I have been there in real life. It's actually a little difficult for me to rack my brain around the fact that Delfino Plaza isn't real. I've spent so much time there, what do you mean it doesn't exist? If I could go here, I feel like I would know exactly where to go for anything I needed. On a more serious note about the presentation, the water in Sunshine really does still impress me. I have no idea how they got it to look like this, but I'm always fascinated by it. Generally, I know nothing about how games are actually created, so maybe I'm just easy to impress. However, Mario Sunshine is still a really pretty game in my eyes. There's an extreme level of detail put into the visuals. Seeing the sun gradually come out more and more as you get more shines is an incredible idea. Also, minor things like seeing airplanes up in the sky and the way the sun looks so realistic when you look up at it, Mario Sunshine still blows me away visually. I know the GameCube had support for component cables as well, but they're pretty dang hard to come by. Someday I would love to play this game in this output since I do have a TV for it. However, like I said, even the generic versions of these cables are pretty expensive. There are so many bright colors and just overall nice things to look at in Sunshine. These segments are always hard for me to write. Last time when we looked at Mega Man 7, I just showed you a bunch of clips from levels that I like the color palette of. So let's just do that again. Overall, I absolutely love the visuals of Mario Sunshine. I certainly wouldn't say I'm a sucker for the best graphics out there. After all, I could care less about something like the PS5 Pro. But I am a sucker for an art style that is pleasant and has aged well. Mario Sunshine and Mega Man 7 might be the best two examples for that, of what I can think of. Also, I don't have another place to add this really, but I just want to note that I absolutely love the character Toadsworth. Mario Sunshine is the game that added him, and for that reason alone, I could consider this a 10 out of 10 game. So real quick, let's take a look at some highlights from the case and manual for Mario Sunshine. Starting off here with the front of the box, we have pretty iconic artwork for sure, Mario and his big shine sprite in the background. Moving on to the back, I was so excited when I was a kid looking at the back of this box because I knew that there were all these cool areas in the game that I had not been to yet. And yes, it does of course promise that you do get to play, well, you get to ride Yoshi as Mario. And I thought those pictures of Serena Beach looked really fascinating when I was a kid. Moving on over to the manual, we have a pretty awesome cover art here. I really do like how kind of cool Mario looks in that shot. It's definitely a little bit more of a badass look for him there. And, you know, just beautiful scenery as always. Moving into the manual, we have some great full color, full art pages here like this, talking about Flood and Welcome to Isle Delfino, all that good stuff. And some introductions for a lot of the new characters. This game brought forth so many new characters, you know, Toadsworth, of course, but also the Piantas and the Nokis and just a whole bunch of good stuff. And then the rest of the manual is pretty simple. I mean, it explains a lot of the controls because, you know, this game is pretty complex in its movement, and so they do take quite a while to explain the controls. So with that, we're going to get into our next segment, which is about the phenomenal music that you've been hearing in the background this entire video, and we're going to delve into that a little more. The Delfino Plaza theme is something that I can be found whistling around my house for days after playing Mario Sunshine. When I was a kid, I would even hear my dad whistling this theme and the menu theme from Smash Melee. Mind you, it was just me playing these games, but they were on so damn often that he picked up on the music too. Otherwise, every theme fits its area so well. A lot of the music was done by none other than Koji Kondo, the Mario music man himself. It makes a lot of sense since this soundtrack is a complete home run. I love that Yoshi adds some little extra drums to each theme. It's a great touch that you don't even necessarily notice when you're focused on playing. One thing I always mention, of course, is themes fitting their respective areas, and Mario Sunshine does really crush it. Listen to how creepy some of this music is, like Sirena Beach. It's the perfect theme for the looming horrors of the Mantis Storm. The overall mischief and dark lighting of this stage is perfectly captured in its theme. Even the menu select theme is really kind of just has this creepiness to it. I don't know how else to explain it other than calling it that. It really does capture the essence of, we're on vacation, but there's something wrong. Now, otherwise, something like Peanut Park is legitimately music that I think can be heard at an actual amusement park or some sort of county fair. I think if I did hear this music at an actual fair, I would lose my mind now, though. Two very underrated tracks, I would say, are the Delfino Airstrip theme and the Final Battles theme. The Airstrips theme is a very artsy remake of the Underground theme. And there is this, again, soothing yet spooky atmosphere to it. Like I said, the entire game has this tone. You're on vacation, but there's evil afoot. The Bowser theme is a bit hard to hear during the fight because of all the rockets going off. But if you listen to it outside of the battle and listen closely, the piano part is actually really cool. Overall, the soundtrack perfectly complements the game's amazing artwork and presentation. It's one that I listen to outside of the game as well, and it will always invoke so many childhood memories. So now let's take a look at how folks can experience Mario Sunshine today. Yeah, they haven't done jack shit to preserve this game. Just kidding. Well, sort of. I still think that claim is true, but let's discuss it. As I mentioned earlier, I loathe the way Nintendo handled the re-release of 3D All-Stars. If they had made this an easily accessible remaster with new graphics and the whole 9 yards, then we'd be sitting here celebrating it. Instead, it's this weird footnote when looking at a list of all the GameCube games that you can play on the Switch. There's YouTube videos with compilations of Mario Sunshine songs that have awesome modern renderings of Delfino Plaza, and I just want this so badly. Maybe one day it'll happen, but I might be waiting until I'm dead for a full remaster like this of Mario Sunshine. Mario Sunshine will always be my favorite game of all time. Replaying it for this video once again confirmed that, and I really don't see any game ever replacing it. There's a ton of fun to be had, and I still get so much enjoyment out of completing the main stages. I know it is a heavily flawed game, and in my adult years I barely scratched the surface of a lot of the side questing. As I said, it is what I make of it, and nothing will ever replace the amazing memories I have playing this game over summer breaks and on snow days. Again, you might think I'm just a nostalgic bastard for this game and that nothing I have said in this video matters. You might be right, but again, I don't replay every game that I'm nostalgic for yearly. For example, I played a ton of Sonic R as a kid because I had the Gems collection for GameCube as well. I know, Sonic R, what a sad childhood, right? I'm just kidding. I'll tell you this, I'm certainly not making the choice to replay Sonic R every year despite being nostalgic for it. So with that, that's enough rambling for today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. It tells the algorithm that this video is good and then it shows it to other people. If you want to check out more of my reviews, I have an entire playlist of every single review I've done on this channel. I have several others from different Mario games and a lot of the Mega Man series as well. Be sure to subscribe and help me hit that 1K mark. We're getting very close, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.